Okay, so what is this? I was thinking about the other element that you really need if you want to go into game design is just to have a large knowledge about just different games. So you should have a few games that you know really well, but you also should have just a back catalog of, hey, I know this game, just so you can have comparison to different mechanics and different features that have been used in different locations. So you kind of know how you could apply them for your own systems. So essentially, that's what this is. It's a series where I take a few short videos about different types of games and just talk about them. Focus will not be directly on the design side, more about like general what does the game offers, but of course, if there's something interesting, we will have a few jumps onto how specific mechanics work. The overall idea is that we will talk about what's part of the game and how does it play, what content elements does it have, and by this nature, it will also obviously be quite spoiler happy. So if you don't want to get spoiled on these games, then these videos are likely not for you. That being said, I think from a design perspective, you should just know loads of games, even if you haven't played them, just so you're aware about the overall language. If people talk about something, you know what they're referring to. So, this is Hollow Knight Silksong. Will be the first game that we talk about. Just shown a bit about the inventory systems. You have different crests which will function as different weapons with different movesets, and you can equip different tools into them, which kind of give you additional effects and multiplayer abilities. Additionally, you have a few tool objects, which are basically just special abilities that cost you a resource, and you get this resource from basically almost every enemy that you kill. So, what makes this game special? It's fundamentally a Metroidvania, but it has a lot of active fighting game is not the correct terms, but really in-depth combat elements. So you have loads of different types of blocking, parrying enemies' hits by attacking them at the same time they attack you. You have loads of different dodge maneuvers and quick attacks, so you can essentially jump around the enemy. Would compare this load to how, for example, Smash functions. So you have a strong moveset and you're fairly fast on your feet, and you fight against a lot of enemies that are similar to that. And, well, you challenge them essentially on your own term. But because this is completely single player focused, obviously player will be able to interact with basically anything on their own terms. Game also features a large amount of secrets. Like this breakable wall, you can bounce on almost every dangerous element. So they have spikes, but you can attack the spikes to effectively jump on them. Doesn't work on all spikes. I think the idea is that everything that's natural doesn't work. Everything that's crafted does work. But it also has loads of secrets. So for example, here I activated this switch, and the entire section is new to me as well. But from what I've been getting is that changing the switch state will essentially add more enemies to the overall map. I haven't figured out what else it does, but these guys here are new now, and essentially the entire area has now. It's also brighter now, so you can actually see properly, so maybe that's the trade-off that you get here. Yes. For the overall combat structure, as you can see, you have loads of different elements for how you can attack them. So you just jump around all of the enemies, multiple dashes, approaches to get to them. You can heal. This is actually quite interesting design mechanic. So you can heal by using your silk, which is the white bar underneath the mask bar. So the mask resembles your health. The white bar beneath that resembles your silk. And if you have enough silk, you can consume it to get your health back. You use the same resources to use some special magic-like abilities. And you get one of these charges every time you hit an enemy. So effectively you get more health the more aggressive you play. And you can use more special abilities the more aggressive you play. So this encourages the player to always be in action. In fact, what I put together here in terms of item frequently allows me to just take hits and hit the enemy in return to get my health back. And essentially in doing so, you set up situations where you just get loads of resources for actively aggressing. And in general, this makes this game feel really aggressive. There's I think in many of like similar games, you tend to be really passive and just wait for the enemies to make the first move. And you can still do this here, but you are heavily encouraged to actively play with the enemies. All of this obviously will change during boss fights, as it usually is for these games. While you usually have the upper hand with normal enemies, bosses will be different than that. They will usually not get staggered as much from you, they will have their moveset, they will usually do more damage, so you have to respect them a bit more. So the other thing in this game is that you have like loads of additional puzzle elements. So here we have our assignment says, press the buttons in the right order type of puzzle. And there will be loads of different items and different equipments that you can pick up. Sometimes more obscure than other things. So from this thing I got like a cock heart thing. I'm not exactly sure what it does yet, but I have it. So you don't always have the answer for everything from the beginning, and then through exploration and like playing around with whatever you find, you will piece by piece put the puzzle together to figure out how like you can progress through the game. Usually these things gate power, but they also frequently gate utility. Or see, I have like this double jump ability, and I have a few different dashes. All of these are unlocked from different like special sections in the game, where you have like a gauntlet for a challenge and then you get this reward. Interestingly enough, I think many of these things are actually not required. So while there are certain things that will unlock once you have access to a double jump, there's frequently a different way of handling with these situations, coming from a different direction, using enemy to jump higher and stuff like that. So there's like not necessarily a very straightforward progression, but you will have to essentially like piece together. Like wherever you go, you find a new piece, and then this enables new pathways from whatever you currently know in terms of how it functions. Other interesting element here is that in comparison to the previous game, Hollow Knight 1, like just Hollow Knight, this game has way more enemies that deal more damage, but you also heal more like hits and like health at once for like say a similarly long animation. So it's easier to heal, but you also take more damage. And essentially the trade-off that you get from that is that you have to attack the enemy more aggressively, because you like still get like a similar amount of resources for healing, but you also get like you can like be more aggressive because you have to spend less time healing. Talk a bit about the resource system of this game. So in similar Souls-like fashion, you have a currency that you lose when you die. It's like these red balls that you see fall out of the enemies, and you use this for all of the different shop experiences and something like this. There are loads of things in the game that you can buy that you would usually expect to get for free in games, like checkpoints and map elements. So you always need to have some amount of currency ready, obviously, because if you die, then you don't have currency for that moment, but you can have stored into an item that you can use on demand to get access to map pieces more easily without actively like hunting for them, or hunting for money in like situations where you don't want to. It's getting a bit lost in this situation. I'm trying to record these things with like areas that I don't know at this moment, so you kind of see the wonder of me exploring the level the way it's intended to be played. But here is kind of where I see where we can go, and this is like a place that will lead us forwards to our like showcase boss fight. Not good enough in the game to actually beat it, but good enough to showcase how it's going. So this is where we can see the flip from like us being in control and more action-wise to an enemy that puts more attacks, more damaging zones onto the field. So we have to react more to the enemy now in comparison to how we previously had the enemies or react to our movement by jumping around them. That being said, this game it has a really strong element of rhythm. So if you hit your beats by beats, you can actively get engaged in fights in a way that I haven't seen a lot in other games. So it gets you in a state where let me interrupt with this a quick intermission for this. So the game has a quest system as well. So there are different zones that allow you to get quests. I have like a quest that asks me to collect 15 of these codes. It's like obviously simple fetch quest, but the idea here is that you actively remove the codes from the enemies and then they're naked on the floor. And game will effectively progress what you're doing through these quests. So it's like more or less like side objectives on that. I also found this weird thing which cries in my inventory. Not exactly sure what it is yet, but it's there, and every time I open my inventory I get like baby noises. So let's progress to the boss fight. So this is essentially where we see like a way more fast-paced rhythm. I mean, the entire game is fast-paced, but we see one that's like led by a specific pattern that we can play around with. And very interesting part of all of this is that if you get into the flow to fight with the boss fights, they really nailed this like dance element that you frequently have in fights where it feels like you move one bit with the other character and like both of them will be in sync in a way that like plays out really well. Yes, I also use these like red fly thingies, which is an item that I found. So this is the one that uses the other resource in this game, which is called scraps, shards. It's just essentially a resource that is like finite in terms of how much you have in any given situation, but you don't lose it on death. And you use this to craft your tools. You get this from basically any enemy, but if you fight a boss for too long, you will run out of this stuff. Initially I was kind of annoyed by this because it essentially gets you to grinding every once in a while, or it feels like it gets you towards grinding every once in a while. But I do think like a really neat side effect of this is that once you run out of stuff and you want to use your tools, the game actively incentivizes you to go somewhere else and try something else. So if players don't do that, I think this mechanic is like somewhat of a downside because effectively it nerfs the player after they struggle for a while. But if the player plays with this and say, okay, let's do something else if I can't use my stuff, it actively gets the player to explore and grow stronger before they got back to something that they struggle with. These tools are also really cool. There's like lots of variety and different things that you can do. We'll talk a bit about equipment in a moment. So this is where you see like you can heal while flying. So you can always find like a spot that's perfect for that. But if you get hit while you heal, heal is interrupted. I think we will see that in a bit as well. Then you lose your essentially healing resource in addition to the health that you would have gained, and you take the hit. It's quite brutal. All in all, like community has already talked about this game is difficult, like really difficult, but it plays super well. So if you're willing to deal with that, this feels great. You know, this was the situation. So like heal got interrupted, and I took the damage and lost my healing resources. And they got me. Yeah, I promise I beat him on the next try. You will not see that, but definitely what happened. Let's show a bit of the pieces of the inventory. So you have these equipment pieces. So they have different sections to equip different items. So you have like your blue tools, you have your yellow tools. And effectively you can put together your own character build with this. All of the red tools are actively usable items. They all use some form of resource. So in this version I have like this harpoon that I can throw. Also put like the like purple ash thing gives it to a poison effect. Like this version puts like a fire effect on your sword, but because I have the poison effect equipped, it will put a fire effect and a poison effect on my sword now. So can attack, essentially can you build your character really in loads of different ways, showing one of the other quests showcasing that you get completely different attack moves, and you effectively combine like as a base set what you want your attack moves to be, also defines a bit of your healing and like charge attacks, and then you can add these additional slots in there to further define your playstyle. This creates quite a lot of variety in terms of how you can tackle this game. I do think there is something for everyone here. We have a lot of NPCs. They all have like cryptic Souls-like lore, so all of these people exist, but they don't actively tell you a story. It's more like you are in the world with them, and if you put the pieces together, you can understand the story of this game.